mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
It's awesome.
Hi everyone and welcome to the Monsters Up North podcast. It's a monster podcast and it's hosted by me, Sam, and I am joined as always by Dan from Bleading Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
And this week we have the very gorgeous and glamorous Graeme with us.
Oh, you. This old thing, like referring to my skin suit that I wear to pretend that I'm actually human.
That's me today. I'm trying
no,
my
you've got
best.
the bones on the outside. You've gone the opposite way.
Oh yeah, I've flipped inside out.
Oh my God, you've got some sexy ribs. Oh, I love a woman with some nice ribs, you know.
Oh God,
Stop it.
It's a good job our audience have met you before, Graeme.
Yes. Here's a weirdo we met. You know, we've removed his hair as punishment.
My God. Well, as you heard from last week, this week is the Wolfman. Not the werewolf, but the Wolfman. So I'll do the disclaimer and we'll just get on because I have a shit ton of factoids. I have researched this week.
I have things I need to share with everyone.
Oh, it was like that this afternoon and I had nobody to talk to and I was like, God damn it! Right, so everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us in the comment section and we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone come in for us and tell us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behaviour out of nerdism. I thank you.
Oh, very good. That was the finest disclaimer I've heard today. That one.
I appreciate it.
Bravo.
Right, so The Wolfman, released in 1941, directed by George Wagner, written by, now you'll have to bear with us, Kurt Sodermack.
I think so.
Sodermack. Makeup done by Jack Pierce, starring Lon Chaney Jr., Claude Rains, Evelyn Ankers, Warren Williams, and Bela Lugosi. The movie that spawned 4 sequels, starting with the Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. However,
that's the worst Tinder date ever.
Awful. Well, today, however, we start with the OG. The Monster by Moonlight, The Wolfman.
Oh,
thanks! Oh, that's so good!
I knew you were waiting for it, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
That was like my sort of, it meant to be the Wolfman, but it was actually Shakira She-Wolf.
Oh,
slightly, but which is also one of the sequels. I think that might be the 5th sequel. Yeah,
because their hips don't lie. So yeah,
they don't lie. It's and also just props to Shakira fitting the word lycanthropy in a lyric. He's just like, well done.
Bravo, lady, bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo, that's the finest lyric I've ever heard.
Yes.
I think we've all picked up a really good posh English accent with watching all these movies.
It's Claude Rains, man. Claude Rains. I was saying earlier, he's a god amongst men. He's literally one of these things where I know he's 2 foot tall. I know at the end of the day they fold him over and put him in a box like Pinocchio. But it's the idea of just well, they do now. He's dead. But it's the but it's the fact of just that voice is just amazing.
It is.
After watching this and watching The Invisible Man and stuff, I'm just like, I need to watch every Claude Rains film ever. I know there's going to be some crap in there. But
it's Claude Rains.
Yeah.
Well, my first question I ask on each and every podcast, because, well, I say each and every one, we've only done, this is 3. What makes Wolfman a good monster? I love that deadly silence afterwards. We got it last week as well.
No, I'm doing this new thing, okay, that I've been practicing. It's sort of like mental yoga, but it's called letting other people speak. Now, I don't think it's for me. However, we're going to see how it goes. It's like a HelloFresh. We're going to do a 30-day trial and then see if we like it or not.
You're doing well.
We're actually going to do that and then forget to cancel it.
Oh,
For 2 fucking months, and then I'm going to be stuck, and they're going to send me bloody curry every week, and I'm like, I don't even like lentils. Why are you still fucking sending me lentils? Anyway.
God. What makes Wolfman a great monster? I think you broke Dan.
I've got to be honest, I don't think he is a good monster. I think he's terrible. I'm going to, as I said in our chat, I think there's 2 possible names we can give this movie, alternative, AKAs. The Hairy Watcher and Larry the Lurker.
Well,
Larry the Lurker.
I was going to call it Sex Pest the Musical. Just like, but they had to take the musical numbers out because obviously they were all about like, I like looking through telescopes.
Step will change.
Star earrings on. But yeah,
that was creepy. Let's be honest. That is one of the creepiest parts of the entire film. That tiny opening sequence, with the bit where he's fixing the telescope and he's watching her.
It is.
And then he goes into the shop.
Yeah,
and that is interesting factoid number 1. The fact that the actress the main actress, I've just said her name and I can't remember it.
Evelyn Ankers.
Evelyn Ankers hated the fact that he lurked on her. He lurked on her so badly because he was trying to be
as well?
Yeah, well, yeah, because Lon Chaney Jr. is a giant of a man, which I learned today from the documentaries I've watched. He is a giant of a man. They classed him as hulking. He was that big, and he used to try and scare her in the Wolfman costume, where she didn't find it scary.
And we've seen it. That's difficult.
Yes.
It's literally just him on his tippy toes with a fucking crap wig on. It's like, okay, that's terrifying.
I'm sure that doesn't come out there normally. That, when he's on tiptoes, I will say, as much as I love Jack Pierce, the tippy toe bit with his heel, that's his heel. That's not the spur halfway up your calf like you see in a werewolf these days.
I think what they were trying to do is put him on hind legs. Like, as in, his legs were, if he was to have bent over, he would have, like, hind legs. I think that's the only way I can describe it, other than he has hoofs.
It's meant to be that, but it does just look like a man wearing furry booties.
Yes.
And that kind of takes away a lot of the threat, I think.
Yes, it does.
But to answer the question, though, it's like, I don't know. Are we talking about the Wolfman in terms of just this film and how it's portrayed here? Or are we talking about the idea of werewolves? Because the problem is, while this film doesn't achieve it very well, I think the werewolves in this world are kind of terrifying, I think. Like, the fact of, like, think about it. Like, obviously, the reason, like, I don't believe in werewolves because... but it's the idea of like no, but it's that idea of they're like vampires. If they existed, there would be billions of them. Because if they actually, just by biting or scratching you turn into one, why is everyone not a werewolf? And in this kind of world, it kind of goes like, how many silver things do we own? Like,
like pure silver. It's so interesting you say it that way, because in the documentary I watched today, that's exactly how they described them. Exactly how they described them. That if werewolves were real, they'd be like vampires, like because they would be everywhere.
Just how do you stop it? Like in this film, it's terrifying because it's literally he just gets bitten by like a gypsy, like Bela Lugosi as like a werewolf. And then he becomes one, and there doesn't seem to be a cure. Like, obviously, some vampire films, some like werewolf films and stuff, they kind of go, oh, well, if you do this, or, oh, if you kill a head vampire, or if you bathe in moonlight or something, then you will sort of become normal again. And it's like this one, it just goes, no, it's pretty much death. And so while the Wolfman himself is literally a sex pest in like hairy booties, it's the fact of, it's the fact of just going, what a horrible scenario, I think. Yes. And I think that's what makes the Wolfman scary, I think. Not him, but the idea that if he scratches you, you're doomed,
Yeah, that's it, game over. Like,
I agree. I agree in the sentiment that if it's bigger than just this film.
Yeah.
A werewolf.
He's a shit werewolf, basically.
He is. He's awful.
Oh, Dad, I'm going to scratch you. Oh, no, you've hit me with a cane. Oh, no, that really hurt.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's...
I've taken a bit of a tumble.
Well, no, stay on track, Danielle. Yeah, I think pertaining to the bigger world, like when you start looking into werewolf films that have spawned from all of this sort of stuff, you've got like the tribute, you know, through the Monster Squad. You've got the Howling. You've got obviously the big American Werewolf in London. You've got, of course, you've got
that famous wolf lady.
Yeah.
There's a song about it. Christ.
There's so many. I wrote some down because I forgot. Van Helsing, the Teen Wolf, the original Teen Wolf. Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer were in a film called Wolf. Ginger Snaps, Dog Soldiers.
Yeah.
The list is bloody huge.
And all of them come from this, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, they actually come from Werewolf of London.
Yes.
Right.
And then this came afterwards.
Because
Werewolf of London, because Werewolf of London doesn't and they did have movies of animalistic type of people. I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but Bela Lugosi was in one. And again, it didn't work. This is the first time that it worked on screen.
Yeah.
Was through Lon Chaney Jr.'s performance, which I
don't know if I want to see the Werewolf of London, like, because if this was the one that worked and we're taking the piss out of how he looks, you're just like, oh, well done then, you know. Yeah,
it's 1935 Werewolf in London came out, and I was blessed with that in my eyes, and I can see the Wolfman as we know him, with his nice little bouffant blowout.
And when he's transforming back into a human at the end, it just
comes
my god,
I have so
they don't
many
even try to
facts
thin
about
it
that.
out. They just go, that bouffant just goes and it's back with normal hair. And you're like, that was just a wig then, right?
But yeah, I mean, when you see that version, the Jack Pierce version, and then you look at the original 1935 version, and basically they've just gone, here's a little bit of sweeping off from the barber shop stuck here. There's a bit stuck there, bit over there. He's a wolf. And it's like, oh my god, shockingly terrible.
It's basically bad cosplay. But I think the thing is, though, that like when I was doing my research into this, because I'm going to say research, I mean, watch loads of fucking YouTube videos.
That's Dan's research.
But I'm learning things from the internet. But it's the fact of like the werewolf in legends are weird. Like they kind of like, because it's history, throughout history, there's been loads of people turning into wolves.
Yeah.
But the hybrid aspect, the idea that it's both a man and a wolf, so it's like a wolf on its hind legs or whatever, that's like really late on that happened. And that was like, I think it's like Slavic, I think, or something like I think what is it? Yeah, but
German
it's
folklore, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of isolated where that wasn't like the common belief. So it's this idea of these films here, like, you know, Werewolf of London and like The Wolfman, are like what took all these legends, put them together into a kind of, and this is the monster, and this is the lore around the monster, and that's kind of cemented in all of the films that, like Dan was mentioning earlier, and it's a bit weird. It's the same as Dracula, really, where the Universal monsters kind of compounded all of these legends and went, yeah, cool. There's a bit from over there, a bit from over there, a bit from over there. This is it together, I think, because I couldn't find all the stuff about like werewolves that I could see was basically, yeah, it's just a monster. Like it doesn't turn back into a human. It starts as a human, but like, you know, you get bitten, then you actually die, and then you turn into a monster and you come back to life again, but you stay a monster. So the idea of coming back as a person again is like taking all these different things and mixing them up and stuff. Like,
well, in the sequel, because he was dead at the end, we clearly saw Claude Rains beat the living shit out of him with his cane. Claude
Rains doesn't let anyone leave alive. Yeah,
no,
he's a badass bitch.
But he did this time because, well, they obviously, this was such a success for Universal. Like, this was a success. And they wanted to capitalize on that, and they come out with the sequel, and it's where he meets Frankenstein. Because with Claude Rains, the size that he is, I don't think we appreciate as audiences how big he actually is. And they thought the only thing that's going to scale up to him is Frankenstein.
No,
and that's where they went with that. Yeah, Lon Chaney Jr., yeah. And they went with the Frankenstein thing. And their reasoning for him coming back from the dead was, doesn't matter. That is literally it. They open up the casket, his casket, and he goes, "Oh my God, he looks so natural." And he just opens his eyes and like, "Oh my God, he's alive!" And that's it. That is it.
And this is after Claude Rains being a doctor for a whole film, just being like a man of science and being like, should have checked his pulse, really.
Yeah, no, he was dead, and throughout the whole movie, he is so pissed that he's being brought back. He wants to die. Dracula's in this too, by the way. Bela Lugosi is back as Dracula, because Dracula does end up assisting him in his death, which is so funny. He's standing on a balcony, and Bela Lugosi runs to the balcony, and then he puts his arms out, transforms very slowly, by the way, into a bat, and then all of a sudden Lon Chaney Jr. comes launching off the balcony and out the window, and there he goes. And that was his plan all along. It sounds like I haven't seen it. I generally haven't seen it.
We need to watch this.
We really need to watch this one. But again, going back to the Creature episode where I mentioned about oh my God, what's his name? Boris Karloff. That movie was made for him. So was this one. This movie was made with the mind that Boris Karloff was going to play. Did they just at Universal just have like loads of scripts and was like, right, Boris Karloff. We'll just see if it happens.
They must do, like, you know, because you get that with actors, where you get like, because obviously, like we were saying, on the original Big Monsters podcast, it was the fact of like you were committed to a studio. So once they signed you up for a studio, they were like, okay, what can we use this person as? Yeah. So you genuinely just got vehicles where you went, this is a Bette Davis movie. Oh, this is a Joan Crawford movie. This is a Bela Lugosi movie. This is a, Lon Chaney Jr. movie. And they kind of went, hey, we've got this person on contract. What scripts would suit them? And I think there's something wonderful about that. Like, because you still get it nowadays where they go, oh, we want Johnny Depp to play this, and we wrote it with them in mind, kind of thing. Yeah. But like back in those days, they genuinely must have just gone, yeah, we wrote this specially for this person because they're in contract and they can't say no, basically.
Well, Boris Karloff can, because he said no to a lot to things.
He said it was because he didn't want the makeup. Right? Yeah, the makeup. He said the makeup was too much.
I think you said that on the. I'm having like memories. I'm sure you said that either on Creature or on the. We've talked a lot about monsters. Yeah. But Bela Lugosi really wanted this movie.
Yeah. They said no.
No. They said you can play the gypsy, but you're not playing the werewolf. No chance. Yeah. You can be a werewolf, which. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm bouncing all over the place, but I have to get this out. And I brought this up on the Monster one. Why is he a werewolf and him a wolf man?
Well, this is to be fair, Bela Lugosi isn't a werewolf or a wolf man. He's a fucking Alsatian. I paused it. He is. I paused it when I was watching it, and it's just a fucking German Shepherd.
It's not.
It is. It's Lon Chaney Jr.'s dog. His real life dog called Moose. That played the dog that attacks him. That is supposed to be Bela Lugosi.
Like, I'm pretty sure it's for a second, because basically you see a long shot of like the silhouette of a German Shepherd. Effectively, that's what it looks like, and then it kind of cuts away, and then it cuts back when it's attacking him, and then it's turned into a cuddly toy where he's like punching this like cuddly silhouette of a cuddly toy, and it's just, and he's just going like special effects. It's just going to get better from here, and then you see the actual. The booties and the bouffant, you're like, never mind.
It's got to bump it in.
No, but what they should have done is they should have got his pet dog, the German Shepherd, and put it in the bouffant and done all of that, like, for consistency.
So
had it walk on its hind leg, on its tippy toes.
On his tippy toes. So the makeup itself, right. So Jack Pierce, Jack Pierce, bless his heart, he was a stickler for his way of makeup, and this is half the reason why Universal had to let him go, is because he would not move on from the way he did makeup. He literally was, the makeup case. That was then, that was his thing. He didn't like prosthetics, or rubber is what it was used back then. It's obviously evolved into prosthetics now, but back then it was rubber, and he only negotiated on the nose. So when you look at Lon Chaney Jr. in the makeup, he has a rubber nose, very clear, because you can see all the edges around here. The hair is yak hair, which they still use in makeup today, because apparently it's very easy to manage and to deal with. And
yaks haven't unionized yet.
Exactly. So we're all good. And he literally hot glued it to his face, and then singed the ends of it. So that's why it looks as rough as what it does when it goes around. You can tell, you can see the singe marks. Like, I know it's in black and white, but everyone, if you've been as daft as I am and burnt your hair before with a lighter just to see what happens, then you've seen singe marks before.
Oh, it's the smell. It's the smell. I can smell it.
But that's how they did his makeup. They singed around his face, and obviously that hair is just...
Couldn't they have just put loads of PVA glue in a shotgun and then rolled him around in a cat person's house? just go, okay, that'll do it.
Literally hot glued his face. 6 hours of makeup.
Originally, they weren't going to show the wolf at all, though. They wanted to make it. When they saw the treatment, the original storyline was when Karloff said he didn't want to have prosthetics, or he didn't want to do it. They were like, oh well. This version that they made was they wanted to make it more of a psychological type horror thing, where they wanted to you're seeing it, it's up to the audience to decide whether they thought Larry was descending into madness, or he was having an episode, or he really was a werewolf. But then they saw the design for the wolf, and after Karloff turned it down, they went that route instead. So
well, I think the great thing is that bizarrely, because I watched this earlier today, I watched it again earlier today on Internet Archive, so archive.org, which it's free on all the Universal monster movies are on there for free, which is brilliant. But then the follow-up movie it recommended was called She-Wolf of London.
Yes.
And that was done in 1946. Yeah, I didn't know it existed, but I watched
Shakira?
It was Shakira. So good they named her twice, apparently. But in this film, it's exactly that. So you can tell that they kind of had this idea and they went, hey, let's go with it. Because basically in this movie, you don't see an actual wolf creature, and it's about a werewolf, but you never see it, and it's all about the psychological effect it has on the person who's like, oh God, I'm a werewolf. How do I stop this? And it's quite cool because it does take it in that direction without being a sort of monster movie, Although there probably would have been a lot of people disappointed because they're like, "Oh, there's no monster in it."
And there's no monster.
There's a monster, and there's none monsters in this
no
film.
Monster there?
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
That is my attempt at a Newcastle or whatever accent.
Oh God! Please don't try it again.
Everyone has unsubscribed.
you don't want to hear mine. That'll really get everybody gone. So.
Oh gosh. Well, with Lon Chaney Jr., I found this so bizarre. Now he is probably a middle-aged man at this point. Like, I say middle-aged, like he's probably about in his 30s or something. This is like one of his first. This is like one of his first films. He did not start acting until his dad died. Wow. When Lon Chaney died, he then started acting, and I was like, "Holy shit!" His dad had such a pull that he said, "You're not to act." He knew fine well he would never act until his dad died.
His first movie was Of Mice and Men, where he played Lenny.
Yes,
and they gave him the 6-inch like espadrilles to wear to make him like really big and imposing. And now all I can see is Lenny as Larry, the lurker. It's like I can see that big imposing thing. I mean, I've seen the majority of the people that I've seen on here say that he is 6 foot, but because he's as tall as he is wide, he gives off this larger frame. But then his dad was apparently 6'3". Lon Chaney himself was apparently 6'3".
I always thought Lon Chaney was short.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Phantom of the Opera in its entirety, and I will do because I'm really excited for us to talk about that one. Because I do appreciate like Lon Chaney's work with within makeup. Especially.
I can't wait for that face.
Oh, well, he did the Smiling Man, didn't he? And he did the makeup for the Smiling Man, and the Smiling Man is the inspiration of the Joker. So it all comes back to the Cheneys. But yeah, he wasn't. His name isn't even Lon Chaney Jr.
No,
I can't remember what it is.
It's Crichton.
Crichton, that's it.
Crichton.
Yes. And then obviously he wasn't going to get recognised. And then because Daddy was gone, he could use Lon Chaney Jr. And it worked for him.
They billed him for a long time as Lon Chaney after his dad died. And he said he didn't like it because it creeped him out too much. He didn't feel like it was right.
It sounded a bit disrespectful from what I was reading today, that it was just he didn't hate his dad. Like he didn't want to disappoint him, but he knew fine well his dad being who he is, he was never gonna work. So he just was like, I'll wait until the old man cocks it. But apparently Lon Chaney died quite youngish. So yeah, he got his big break. But Mice of Men is what really put him into Universal's eye. And they were like, we need him. Because he has the Chaney name attached to him.
Well, Chaney himself was so into the makeup side of stuff, the dad, that he wrote an entry for the Encyclopedia Britannica in 1929, specifically about movie makeup.
Wow.
Because he was so into it, which then carried on to Lon Chaney Jr. because he loved it as much. And so he fell out a lot with Jack Pierce as they were making
when he was sellotaping cat hair.
And he was like,
I think you would have preferred sellotape.
Boris Karloff said that he used to sleep in the mask because he didn't want to go through the process of having to take it off and how excruciating it was. So Karloff used to sleep in it, whereas Chaney Jr. turned around and said, I'm not doing that because I'm so scared my eyelids are going to stick together and I'm not going to be able to open them ever again because of the way Jack was applying the makeup. So he was like, this has to come off daily. So they had to cram in the filming for the wolf bits into one sort of section of days so that he wasn't in it for an excessive amount of time. But
the transformation scene, interesting fact number God knows what now. So the makeup was 6 hours on, 3 hours off. So that's not, in the grand scheme of things, what we know today with prosthetics and such, that doesn't seem too bad. But when you're getting hot glued for 6 hours, that's going to hurt. But the transformation scene is done by what is called lap dissolve. And Goodwill's probably screaming at us because I'm probably getting this wrong. And, he knows production. But it's called lap dissolve. And it literally is, it is taking a shot of each individual bit and then lasping it together. And so poor Lon Chaney had to go from literally hours of just standing there while they panned up with him, not with his normal body, and then hours of him panning up with his makeup on. So he was probably in makeup a lot longer doing that than he was anything else. Poor bloke, man. Poor bloke.
No, thank you.
Nuts, isn't it? Like,
he suffered for his art.
I mean, this is the thing. Obviously, me and Goodwill do the Trekking Up North podcast, and obviously a lot of the stuff we have in Star Trek, where it's kind of normalized in the 90s, where you just go, "Hey, you're a character, and you're in every single episode of this show, and it's 8 hours of makeup to get the prosthetics and stuff on, and then that's you done for the day," and you're like, can you imagine doing that? Like, it's so scary how normalized it can be in acting to be like, hey, just go through all of this. Like,
we're watching Guardians of the Galaxy, and all these people are all in either prosthetics or really heavy duty makeup, and we're like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's just totally, completely normal. But looking at it from back then, it blows your mind that these people actually endured it.
Yeah, but to be fair, Jack Pierce with a fucking glue gun, you just be like, I mean, surely that's the universal monster that doesn't get credited enough.
Potentially. Potentially. I know that's the reason why he kind of had to go, because I think I was watching Rick Baker was on this
You've
documentary.
glued hair to his face.
Yeah,
They're just like, yes.
Well,
Don't worry, we've got another 40 years before like health and safety gets invented.
It's fine.
It's all right. My God, he could not get away with that today. But yeah, Rick Baker was saying like the saddest part is he just wouldn't progress with the times.
Yeah.
He wouldn't look into other aspects of makeup. It was his way or the highway, and unfortunately, I know everyone knows my feelings on this man. But Bud Westmore then came in and went, "I'll do it." Dick. We fucking hate Bud Westmore, by the way.
Get in the bin. Get in the
fucking bin. I have an interesting factoid of the writing. So the ancient poem that's read out constantly and they take bits and pieces from it.
Oh, yeah.
Even, I've got to tell you, even a man who is pure of heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolf's bane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. People generally thought that was real. So fucking
like a
made
real,
up. Yeah,
like a real.
For years. Is it on the back of there? Can we just appreciate Dan's backdrop this week, guys?
Amazing.
I forgot to mention it. It's so special again.
So
but yeah,
I'm so special.
It's so good.
But yeah, people thought it was genuine. Like a genuine German folklore tale, and it is fucking not.
No.
Yeah. I do love the idea though that like I was arguing this the other day where it's like technically everything is made up. So it's made up for the movie, but technically it's like, but it sounds good, but I get annoyed that they hammer it home so many times. They're obviously so impressed with this little rhyme they made. The 3 different characters say it in the space of about 5 minutes. And you're like, we get it.
But they brought it into like modern day because the whole quote was used in 2004's Van Helsing. And they used that whole speech. Yeah. And then Florence and the Machine brought out a song called Howl, which is one of my favourite ones of her songs. I'm not a big Florence and the Machine person, but on the Lungs album, Howl is all about her turning into a werewolf. And she quotes that entire speech from the movie in the lyrics. There you go, useless fact for you.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting, that. I actually got really fascinated by the writer. When doing my little research today. The writer is a German Jew who spent the majority of his life fleeing Nazi Germany. And when it came down to writing this, he tried to... Now, I was trying to see the similarities between what he was trying to say with the escapism, like trying to escape and run away, and he had to pretend a lot of times to be somebody that he wasn't. So there was a lot of kind of transformation going on. And I was trying to put the two together because he did that his life heavily influenced how he wrote this, and have really struggled to find that comparison.
That's not what I would. I didn't get that at all from the film. So it's I didn't, because it's that weird thing, because it's very much like I took this film, in my humble bold opinion, as like from a modern day perspective. He acts in a way, because obviously what they say about the wolf is the wolf brings out the evil in the person. So basically, like, I
think you broke down again.
I mean, if evil is going like this behind a tree, then,
but okay, it's a shit one, but it's the idea of like, obviously what they say in the film is basically like the curse of the werewolf brings out the evil in a man and makes it manifest.
Yeah.
With little booties and the bouffon haircut.
The bouffon.
And the lurking.
And Jack Pierce with a fucking, yak hair and a blue gun. But, no, I know everything. This is the perfect way to do it. Just hold on. Get me more yak hair.
I love how we think that Jack Pierce is
5 more hours to go. Well, cool, nice. Now,
get me some more Eva stick.
Makeup.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of like, that's the thing. And obviously we have him being a sex pest at the beginning. Like, the fact is that, the way that the girl reacts to it shows that it's what he's doing is not acceptable. Like, where like he's literally, where's it? I wrote it in the notes, but it's the idea of like, he goes to the shop. He's like, "Oh no, I want the ones that are in your bedroom." And oh yeah, I've seen you undressing. And then
why did he say that?
That was
and
so
the fact that
weird.
he stares at her, and I didn't realize it until I watched it today. But when he's sort of saying, "Oh, I'd like to see some earrings," and she goes, "Oh, here's the earrings," he doesn't look at them once. He just stares directly at her. The same when she's showing him the canes. He just stares at her. He doesn't pay any attention to anything she's doing. And then when he just goes like, he goes like, "Oh, cool, I'd like to be with you," or something. She goes, "Oh, no, but my dad'll know," and immediately tries to call for her dad. And he's like, "No. And what, to me, that suggests that him going, he realizes that he doesn't want her dad to get involved. And it made me feel like this has happened a lot. So on his travels, this is how he's been with women. And for me, in a modern sense, I felt like him becoming the wolf man is basically... I felt that the film was about not misogyny, but basically the idea of him being a beast as a man and it becoming manifest in him becoming an actual beast.
Yeah.
That's what I took as the meaning, but I kind of get that that's probably a modern take, whereas at the time they were like, he's acting perfectly normal. Like, that's how men act. She's just playing hard to get. And
that was very... What a charming man.
Yeah, we're looking at it through eyes of 2023 and how things are right now. We're not looking at it as in 1940. What did I say?
1941.
1941. We're not looking at it through that eyes, because they're not looking at... They're not really paying attention to the fact that he is completely staring at her and wants to go into her bedroom. They're not paying attention to that.
I mean, later on, when he goes like, "Oh, I honestly, I was just staring through a telescope, so I've been lying to you this whole time," like about crazy stuff. And then she is visibly shocked. She's just like, "No, it's just nuts." Like it's
the doctor.
I don't
for
get
me
escapism. I'm not. I don't get
what
you're saying about the author basically saying, "Oh, it was about sort of running from your problems," because he doesn't.
No.
He has an occasion to kind of leave town, and he promptly doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
He tells his dad, and then his dad's like, "Let's tie you to a chair. That'll fix things."
It's the doctor's approach. It's the doctor's approach where he's like, "It's okay, you did all these things. You're a good man. You come from a good home. You go to your bedroom." Fuck me.
Sleep it off.
Yeah, exactly.
That
doctor offered no help whatsoever, at all.
A useless character, the doctor.
He was actually saying your behaviour is perfectly fine because of your family, basically.
I made a note about bloody what is it? It's the doctor earlier where they're going like, "Oh, I wonder how this happened," and oh well, he after he's been attacked the first time, and then they're like, "Oh, there was blood all over his clothing, and there was blood all over his clothing, but then he didn't actually have a wound. That's strange." And the doctor's like, "Maybe the shock did it." And you're like, "What?" the shock tore his clothes.
Yes.
Made blood appear on them, but then made there be no wound. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The doctor was making any excuse for it to be mental health, as opposed to his actual behavior. He did anything in his power to do. I remember when I was watching it the first time and I was like, am I fucking hearing this right? Is he just excusing everything?
It sounds like, and obviously, we take mental health very seriously because in nerddom, we are all fucked in the head. That is a thing. But it's the fact of it feels like, those people where they're just nasty people and then they cover it up by being like, "Oh, I've got mental health problems." It's like, you don't seem to be trying, though. You don't seem to be reeling them in or doing anything there. And it feels very much like the doctor's just like, "Oh well, he's rich and he's got mental health problems. He can kill a gypsy."
It's by all means,
right?
Yeah, it was bizarre to us when I was watching it. How he was just flippantly, "Oh, it's okay. You're okay, buddy. You just go to bed, sleep it off."
You'll be fine in the morning, young man.
Just sleep off lycanthropy,
Yeah.
Take 2 paracetamol, you'll be fine.
Oh, gosh. So this movie was shot on the Universal backlot, which is classed, and it was classed as their Europe town.
Right.
And They could interchange this into anything. So we've seen probably every Universal monster movie is filmed on the same backlot. And the fog that they used was not really the like dry ice we get today. It was incredibly...
you with a vape?
It was
you as a cinnamon scented vape or whatever.
And I was sat next to her
harder, Sammy.
Sorry, absolutely not.
Two at once, just at the side.
Two at once. Absolutely not. No, it was very toxic and almost killed the leading actress, because the scene when she faints in it, she didn't get back up.
Wow.
And everyone left her.
Yeah.
They did not know she was there until eventually it cleared and they saw her. Yeah, very toxic. It was not. We talk about health and safety. Fucking none in this film.
In saying that, did you hear about the bear incident? There was a bear. Yeah.
Hold on, Nick. You need to tell us now. You can't just roll in with a statement like that.
Well, there was a scene that they were going to have in there where the gypsies had a bear, like a dancing bear, because it was all the fashion back then. Disgusting, but all the fashion. And they brought a real bear onto set. And the bear took a disliking to Evelyn Ankers, or a liking. Either way, no one knows. Yeah. And it chased her across the set. She was lucky enough to be quick enough to be able to climb a certain way up some of the rafters, and one of the set hands yanked her up into the roof structure because the bear went for her. So they had to scrap the entire scene and take the bear out of the equation, because I don't know what happened to the bear. I can't find any information out about that, but yeah, it was crazy.
They killed it.
I'm guessing so. You know,
I just love the fact that there was just like a day at work where you're like, yeah, there was a bear chase. There was a bear chasing a woman across the thing. Like you don't really get that in office environments, and I think that's a shame.
No, you don't. No. And that poor actress, she had to put up with like Lon Chaney Jr. trying to constantly scare the shit out of her. She then passes out in fog, and the whole cast and crew fucking forget about her, and then she gets chased by a bear.
Yeah,
I think this is the whole thing, though. Like, I don't want to sound like sort of crappy and liberal and stuff, but it's the fact of like watching all these old movies makes me go, whoa, it was really horrible to be a female actress back then, because you got no breaks whatsoever at all. Like,
but to be fair, she's only just now getting recognised as being the first scream queen. Her nickname was Queen of the Bees because she was always in what they classed as B movies or horror movies, and her scream became quite synonymous. Not as famous as the Wilhelm scream, but yeah, Queen of the Bees. It just sounds really shit, doesn't it?
I mean, really fucking like it.
No, I mean, Queen of the Bees. Release the bees.
It just makes me think Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that's it.
Bees, not the
bees. Well, can we do that at some point? Because that is
Nicolas Cage. Could just have a deep dive on Nicolas Cage's career.
But speaking of which, though, that's a terrible movie. I love the fact that a committee of people sat down and went, we need to remake The Wicker Man. But
hear me out.
But hear me out, okay? Rather than being set in a sort of like Scottish island, it's going to be rural America, and rather than being like sort of like pagans, they're going to be beekeepers, right?
Is that what they were?
It's like a little community, and they're famous for making their honey, and that's where the bee thing comes in. And you're just like, all of this is a bad idea, but although it does have that is my favorite thing in the entire world, though, where he runs. What is it? He's dressed as a bear. He runs up to a woman, punches her, steals her bicycle, and rides off on it dressed as a bear. And I'm just going, this existed in a script at some point, and nobody said anything about like.
It's the usual Sunday for me. That so,
this is a horror movie.
It just reminds me of that Key and Peele sketch where they're sitting down at the table, throwing out ideas for Gremlins 2, and every single one of these crazy ideas is the plot point for Gremlins 2.
Odd.
I don't know why that just reminded us of that. Someone sitting at a table going, yes to that, let's get Nicolas Cage in with some bees. Do it.
That's exactly what it is. It's terrifying. But yeah, but no, I think Queen of the Bees is a great.
I love
I
that.
think it's
I
really
really like that.
I will say though, I made a note of how fucking much I love Jenny's scream. You know, when Jenny gets attacked by Bela Lugosi as a werewolf, that is a Hollywood scream. It's so good. And I know a lot of women screaming.
But yeah, it's because her scream, Anchor's scream, became synonymous. Like it wasn't as, like I said, as popular as the Wilhelm scream, because that is now used forever and a day. But
it's a joke. Every like sound designer for films goes, how can I fit the Wilhelm scream into this film somewhere?
But they didn't need to do that with her, which was it was a point of pride with her that they didn't have to superimpose her screams or use someone else to be her scream. Like, you know, Janet Leigh, like you were saying in Psycho, had to replace the scream, and it was a point of pride for her. But she gave up acting to become a housewife. So she started to cultivate this amazing career. She was born in Chile, but she was actually English. Her parents were English, but they brought her back to England. And when she realised there wasn't much of a career in movies in England at the time, she moved to the US. And she started off her career and did a very small span in Hollywood years. And she managed to get quite a lot of films under her belt in that time. And then she ran off with one of the leading men, and they got married and had kids. And she was just happy to be settling down. And then she went off and did a last movie in the 60s, but she died in the 90s. So she had a good knock-ins.
That's it, though. When you say about the level of films that she's done, that likely is somebody's normal career. Because fuck me, did they used to spit them out back then?
Yeah.
Well, remember what I was saying on the Monsters one about like the annoying fucking woman who's in The Invisible Man and in fucking Bride of Frankenstein. And then when we looked at her IMDb page, she's like 120 movies, and I'm just like. And nobody realised she was terrible. That's impressive.
Can we talk about Bela Lugosi's sister? I don't know the actress's name, but when I heard it today, I was like, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that, so she's not going on my cast list.
It's Maria something. It's Maria something.
She was mesmerising in that. I actually really enjoyed her performance.
In The Wolfman.
Yeah.
The sister. I wrote her off. As soon as she appeared as a gypsy woman, I was still going, oh God, it's going to be like Bride of Frankenstein. It's going to be like, you know.
She's going to come out with this Cockney accent.
Oh my God. Oh, can't believe what's happening. And then she plays it in this really wonderful, like scary but wise kind of way. And the fact, you know, like the fact that she's almost like death, where basically whenever something bad, like, you know, someone dies, she kind of swoops in, and then she's kind of given these like gypsy last rites kind of thing at the end. And it's brilliant because it's weird. I wonder if at the time this was meant to be sort of, gypsies and their weird pagan traditions or whatever, whereas now we're looking at it being like, this is kind of like a fair hearing for some of it, but then you know, for some of these things, because they're not bad, like nobody's going, oh, bloody gypsies coming over here and with their evil ways and stuff. People are actually like, oh cool, it's gypsy folk, oh that's good, you know, like, you know, it seems a bit like, oh, let's go and get our fortunes told, or oh no, one of them died, oh what a shame, you know. And it seems fairer than we're kind of used to in later films. But what's the thing I wrote, like, yeah, and then I don't know if I'm going to be able to mention it later, but one of my favorite points I wrote down is the irony of the scene between her and the priest. Because he has a scene with the priest, and then he's just like, I can't believe you're going to be celebrating at this funeral. And she's like, well, that's our tradition. And he's like, fighting against superstition is as hard as fighting Satan himself. And I'm like, you are a priest. You know,
you shouldn't believe in superstition.
Yeah. My invisible superstition, my invisible like man in the sky is more real than yours. And you're just sitting there being like, okay, this is a weird conversation to have.
Yeah, that is I know they were saying on this documentary that obviously Lon Chaney Jr.'s Junior's name is like plastered across the middle of it, but people were not coming to see him. It was her and her performance when they heard how good she was, because she has such a presence and like that calm and tone that she has throughout. She's mesmerizing and people wanted to see her. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And it's so cool that I can't remember her name. Joe, Dan. Why am I calling you Joe? Dan.
I answer to anything.
I don't even know where Joe came from.
Hang on a second.
I only answer to Graeme, Sonoy's, Velvet.
I can't pronounce Sonoy's, so see, I've tried every time when I'm promoting your podcast is they come up with Admiral. I can't say it. Graeme.
That spicy chimichanga. I just found out what a chimichanga was the other day. It was very nice.
A burrito, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a fried burrito, and I'm just like, what beautiful sorcery is this?
Right, she did 25 films.
That's nothing back compared to what it was back then.
In total, she
lunchtime.
did 25 films. But did you know at the time she was only 6 years older than Bela Lugosi?
Really?
Yeah, and
I'm assuming it was consistent though.
I'd like to think so.
You're just saying there, the way you said it sounded like the difference got wider as they got older. And I'm like, that's not how age works.
It's all the chimichangas. No, but diversion a little bit. Did you know that this was one of the first films to ever have Easter eggs in it? Not actual physical eggs, but Easter eggs as we know them.
Yeah, no.
Yes, in the film. There's 2. The first one is that they use the village set that you see was the village set that was used in Frankenstein. When they bring and I'm going to say it because everyone wants me to say it, where he brings the yeeted kid in on his arms.
Yeah.
And then they're in the village bit. That is the same village set that they used for that. The second Easter egg is that they used the church was from the original Hunchback of Notre Dame that his dad was in, and the dancing of the gypsy girl that is in the Wolfman is very similar to the dance that Esmeralda does in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I think
that's really good. Yeah,
she's very good at this. On the first one when we did Creature, fucking blew my mind with some shit. Like,
still can't get over Peter Jackson.
I will not get over Peter Jackson being potentially directing a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie. Cannot get my head around it.
But this is what Goodwill's like on the Bloody Trek podcast, where he just goes, I know all these random facts. And I'm like, okay, I just like the show.
Yeah, this is Dan. She just comes out with the best facts. Like last week, I was just waiting for it. I think it's going to be like each week I'm going to get, she got this week, because she just comes out with the best facts. Like, mine is shit.
You probably know this one already, but nowhere in this movie do they show the full moon. Nowhere.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
But this is the thing, like, in the lore of this, is it the full moon that does it? Because all we hear is that it's when the wolfbane blooms, and it doesn't seem to make any sense, because obviously Bela Lugosi's just
I need that poem back in front of us again, sorry.
Hold on. I'll read it out. Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Dad? But Bela Lugosi, like, surely if you knew it was a full moon and you were going to turn into a wolf, you'd be like, actually, let's not do fortunes tonight. That might cause issue. So you wonder. So it seems to be more random in this. Like, does it mention that it's a full moon thing, or it doesn't seem to have any of that?
It's that terrible dream sequence that I would like to talk about in a minute, because that is the thing that sets him after he's been bitten, scratched, whatever the bleeding hell happens there.
Noshed.
Yeah.
That'll do it. I'm pretty sure in Werewolf Lore that'll count.
Dan, just note next time, don't wear knee makeup when you come on with Graeme, because mine's halfway down my fucking face.
I'm not sure if it's across UK slang, that one. So where I'm from, that means something completely different.
But you would turn into a werewolf after it, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Well, hold on. Let me just Google that. Well, that's my search history ruined.
That's what I was gonna say. CIA will be searching you out. Yeah, they
I'm waiting for them.
It's the crazy bit where they're doing it's like sun rays and sunbursts, and then it's flickery faces, and it's like, and now he's a werewolf.
See, I was going to say I quite like the dream sequence where it just has all these random imagery and it's all this and this and this and this. I kind of liked it in that kind of, well, that was the best they could do at the time, but I don't know. I still don't think that kind of has a moon in it or anything. It just feels like here's random events, and it felt like it was him trying to make sense in his mind of all these crazy things. And he's like, "Oh, I'm a werewolf. Oh dear."
I've just given the audience epileptic fits, but it's fine.
We know it wasn't quite like Pokemon, levels of epilepsy. It wasn't quite Porygon Adventure or whatever it was. But
you lost me there. I'm too old.
Yeah, I'm not about the Pokemon life at all. But yeah, I did know that there was no moon.
But did you also know that Lon Chaney Jr. is also the only Universal monster to have played four of the main guys? So he played the Mummy, he played the Wolfman,
and
son of Dracula. So he played Dracula, and he also played Frankenstein as well.
He played Frankenstein.
He didn't play the Mummy. He didn't play the Mummy in the Mummy though.
No, that's Karloff.
But he was in
that one's Karloff.
He does play a mummy in one of the Mummy movies. Yes. So he's played the top four.
No.
Going along.
I'm agreeing with the yes on the Mummy part. I genuinely didn't know that, and the only one I knew was Frankenstein, and that's because they showed a still photograph from his Frankenstein, and it's no, it don't work.
This is the problem, though. It's like how good the actors were, where just Boris Karloff was Frankenstein, Bela Lugosi was Dracula, and yet the studios didn't kind of go, hey, we need to worship the ground you walk on because you are this thing. They just went, whatever. They don't want to do it, cool, we'll get someone else. Surely they should have been like, here's all of the money. Please do Frankenstein again.
It's almost like they peeled the makeup off Boris Karloff and hope for the best with Lon Chaney Jr. It does not fit his face at all. It's almost like they tried to do the head on top of his head. That's the only way I could describe it when I was looking at it, was that it's like his head started where his head ended. The top part didn't look right at all. It was so weird. I just did not like it. And all I saw was a still photograph. I never saw any movement whatsoever. But
what if it wobbled, Sammy? What if it was even worse than you suspect, and it wobbled when he moved?
But would it weeble wobbles, and would it fall down?
Frankenstein wobbles, but he never falls down.
He'd bounce off the floor with that thing on his head. He'd be like,
the Battle of the Bouffons. What is it with Lon Chaney and Bouffons?
He loves a moment.
Well, what we need a wolfman. Like, we get it later, but we get a wolfman with a full perm. That becomes like the kind of thing.
Perm?
Just everything, like 70s onwards, isn't it? Like all of the movies. It just
I always just thought they had like long, shabby hair.
It is like shaggy hair, but it's got that kind of wonderful thing to it. I want to see a wolfman with a blue rinse.
Yes.
Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing?
Or a pink rinse, one with a pink rinse, one with a blue, and then they're just fucking taking over the night. That'd be amazing. Just nattering
on. They're just like, oh, you won't believe where I've been. Oh, nightmares. Oh God. I really do. I keep seeing this. I keep looking at my wife, and I keep seeing this like symbol star on her hand, and I'm like, not biting you now.
He could do like a whole skit himself, couldn't he? I love it. Didn't the one in American Werewolf in London, wasn't that almost like kind of, because that was proper, he looked like proper werewolfy. He didn't look like
I would describe it as poofy, but for different reasons.
Yeah. Well, the Howling and the Kessler Wolf were both originally designed by the same person. So Rick Baker on Schmogan's podcast, because I hate him.
We'll never see his name on here.
He I don't hate him. I just think he's a misguided fool. But I'm allowed to say that because he'll never watch this podcast.
Fuck you, Shmush Mushin.
Yeah, they were both done by the same. They were both initially designed by the same person, which was Rick Baker. He started on The Howling, and then he got pulled off of The Howling and went and made the Kessler Wolf. So when you see the Howling Wolf when it's fully transformed, and then you see the Kessler Wolf when they're fully transformed, they're both incredibly similar, but they had to change. Whoever took over from Rick Baker on The Howling, I can't remember who it was, had to make changes to lessen the Rick Baker of it all. So they did different things with the hair. They blew the hair back into a nice coif.
Bouffant?
A bouffant. and a little bit of a side coif and a nice little beardy beard moment, But
I have like a little interesting claim. I wouldn't even class it as a claim to fame. It's fucking pathetic. But Ginger Snaps, the makeup artist of Ginger Snaps. I worked with his sister.
Hey,
and I was like, she was saying, yeah, he's my brother's a huge makeup artist. You might know one of his films. And I was like, go on. Then she was like, Ginger Snaps. I went, fuck off. I was like, no, he didn't. And then I had to Google it, and he did. And I says, how the hell did he get into that? Like, he's from the northeast of England. You don't expect. Like, where do you even go? And she went, literally, it was a case of to be fair,
we do have dog soldiers. Which is a pretty big.
This was back in like the 90s, like the early 90s, like late 80s, early 90s, and he was he's been a makeup artist all his life, and he just saw an advert for a school, and he went, and he just saw by happen chance meet George A. Romero, who then got him in contact with Tom Savini, who then put him into school, who then got him into work, and I was like, oh, fuck, do you go from Sunderland to that? Like, what? It was so interesting. I was sitting there like, and more, like, tell me more. But yeah,
that's really good because the makeup in Ginger Snaps is brilliant. Like, it's really good.
It's a guy from the northeast. There you go.
Well, Catherine Isabel can do no wrong, so she can do no wrong for me.
Well, do you want to hear something that comes out my mouth quite regularly? Never seen it.
Have you not?
No.
Oh,
never seen it.
Give it a watch.
Yeah,
I will.
It's more of a coming of age movie that's like basically it's a you could look at it as an allegory for a woman who comes into her womanhood.
Well, I'm definitely watching it at the wrong fucking time because I'm going in the other direction shortly. So
that's the initial, like when you watch the first one. Well, when you watch the first one, that's the initial. That's what it looks like they're playing at Getting, because they sort of allude to it quite a lot. But she goes full Jennifer's body, where she go like you get Megan Fox go full Fox, you get that sort of transition in there. But yeah, it's nothing good. It's just when you get to the 1876 sequel. Or I think it might have been the second or third one where they go back in time and
there's 3.
Oh, I don't know. I
didn't know there was a third one. I don't know. I haven't seen the sequel actually.
Honestly, there is one where they're in the medieval times and there is a castle and there's something I don't even know.
Why do they keep doing this? They did that with Underworld as well, and you're like,
there's too many Underworlds I cannot keep up with. Like, I genuinely the first one's enough. That's enough for me because I cannot keep up with them.
I still can't believe that Kate Beckinsale met Martin Sheen. They got married and had babies.
Michael,
sorry. But I still can't believe...
That would be a very, very different relationship.
Well, not really. Have you seen it now?
Yeah. But no, I mean... I can't get over that. Michael Sheen is like one of my favourite people in the world. And to know that he's been alike and looking the way he did, I was
Martin!
Michael.
I know.
Do you know what I want to say though? And Paul's gonna love this. It's President Kennedy, you idiot! The fucking Goonies reference. Oh god! Any more factoids on the wolf?
I have got one. Right. Right. There was some hoo-ha about the release date of this because Pearl Harbor happened on the 7th of December.
What is?
Yeah, Pearl Harbor happened on December the 7th, 1941. And so they were like, well, should we put off releasing the movie? And they were like, no, just release it. So they released it on the 9th of December, 2 days after Pearl Harbor, which you think, okay, it's a horror film, no big deal by today's standards. 9/11 happens and then a Freddy's released. They don't correlate. They don't.
Yeah.
There's no correlation. It's not really anything. But back in the day, that was a huge no. It's a big it was a big faux pas for the studio to do something like that. So they sort of took advantage, though, of the people's fear, because people went and watched the movie. And in 1941, it grossed $1 million, which by today's money is about 20.5 million.
Wow.
Dan, how much is that in Freddos?
In Freddos, that's three. Right, Freddos by today's standard.
They are getting expensive, actually, aren't they? Yeah,
but yeah,
I remember checking that and being like, "How much?" But remortgage, okay.
Yeah, they're not 10p anymore.
But this is the weird thing, though. Like, I was watching something the other day, and it talked about like, oh, this film they had to push it back because 9/11 happened, and it's this weird thing of surely. But, obviously it sounds like this is what happened there, where it's the idea of surely when a terrible event happens in the world, you go, let's escape from that by watching a movie. Like, I think that's a genius bit of marketing, but obviously, like we're saying, it was like seen as a faux pas, but seems to have paid off essentially because this has nothing to do with Pearl Harbor, unless that was some subtext written in there. Because actually, no, the bit where the Wolfman does get into a does a kamikaze attack on actually no, I remember that bit. Can you imagine if it was?
I don't think I've ever seen Dan laugh so much. I really don't.
I'm sorry, Dan.
I think you've broke out the third time now.
I'm just saying it's the sequel we need, okay?
I'm with you.
Attacks Pearl Harbor. It would just.
That was going to be one of my questions: is could you see the Wolfman, as in Lon Chaney's Jr., the Wolfman, return? You've just answered it right there.
Yes.
Well, we did. It was Benicio del Toro. Benicio
del Toro.
Del Toro, wasn't it? Yeah, he did the 2010 remake.
I can't bring myself to watch it.
It's not as creepy as Larry the Lurker. I'll give him that.
I want a T-shirt with Larry the Lurker on now.
I think the problem is that everything we're saying about this film is all of the stuff that isn't the film, and that's the weird thing. Like all the stuff we're talking about is him being a sex pest, the the doctor being shit and stuff, and the dad being like, oh, well, since your brother died, you're the heir now. Isn't that wonderful? Now
we've not spoken in so many years, but we've not spoken for so many years, but it's okay, son. You're back now.
Yeah. And you couldn't. I know I haven't spoken to you at all, but I know you're a good person. It's like, well, okay, right, kill. He could have been murdering people.
They are clearly very close in age.
Yeah,
but
I think this is like The Wicker Man, where you couldn't do a remake of this film.
Yeah.
Simply because it's so set in the times of but you can happily do a film about a world. Like, it's that weird thing. Like, I get annoyed when they do this with films where they go, hey, we're going to remake a film, but we're going to take everything out of it and just make it what we want to do with the same theme. But this one, I don't think I think I'd prefer, but that's what American Werewolf in London is, essentially. It's a werewolf film. I don't know if you could remake this or continue it in modern times unless you were really clever.
I don't think people are, and I think it just deserves to stay where it is in 1941. It's exactly the same thing I said about Creature. I don't want to see it in modern times. I want to leave it where it was. I'm happy where it was, and I'm happy that this can stay there. When I first watched this movie, it was only for the Universal Monsters one that we did. I fucking loved it. And I still, regardless of everything that's been said tonight, I still really love this movie.
It's not a bad
intrigued
film.
By it.
It's just, it's not a bad film, but I feel like it lacks, where I will say from the filmmaking point of view, not that I have many in my repertoire, but the way they fade out of a scene or chop a scene and then go into a new scene, it seems really disjointed. It sort of, it doesn't flow, the film. It sort of pulls you out and then puts you in something else, and you're like, what?
Well, I wasn't going to bring it up. I noticed that in what's the scene we have where it's literally he goes to the shop after he's like, he's really messed up in the head. His hair's all messed up and stuff. And he goes to the shop to talk to her. And then he sees the symbol on her palm, sees that she's his next victim. And then he's like, oh, and then runs off. And then it hard cuts to him being fully suited and booted in his house, just being like, okay, Dad, I'm going to leave town for a bit. And you're like,
yes.
What? Well, that is.
It doesn't give you a chance to like take in what you've just saw before you're right in another room, and not in its normal day. Like it's daylight and everyone's dressed in suits, and you're not given a chance to actually appreciate what you've just watched.
That is something they do in all the Universal movies. If you've noticed with the endings, they just finish. There is it doesn't sort of crescendo into this beautiful ending. It's like, oh, he's dead, done.
You know what, though? When we talk about a sequel, this makes me think that I would do a sequel to this, but it wouldn't be what you expect. Because I would do this basically set modern times, but basically in the same world as this. But it's basically someone from that family basically looking back on the events and being like, what the fuck? There was a werewolf? Like, in that kind of capacity. And maybe have it where it's like that's probably where I would take a sequel. And it might not have a wolf person in, but it might be about the effects of this incident on that village. Because we can tell at the end that it gets covered up. Like, it's like the only person... The only person is Claude Rains. He's the only person who goes, oh, well, and Bela Lugosi's sister. But it's the idea they're the only ones that went, oh, God, it was a wolf man.
Wolf man.
It was a lycanthrope. And I killed it with a cane, and then it turned back into my son. And then they come over and they're like, oh, he must have been attacked by the wolf and died saving us, kind of thing. And I think
what a hero!
Yeah, you could get a sequel and basically go like, what about someone discovering that this town hero actually was the person killing people? You
just want to lift the veil, don't you? You just want to be like, look at curtain, lift up, and there you go.
Yeah, I think that if you sat me down with studio execs and you went, hey, it's going to make loads of money, we need a sequel to this, what would you do? That's what I would propose. And I would basically have it where it kind of rehashes events that happened. And
I like that idea. No, I do like that idea. Just because what I want to understand is how Claude Rains
I wouldn't bring him back from the dead like they actually did.
They did.
Be like, oh, it turns out he was just alive, and I'm like, didn't we bury him?
No, it's like they did. He's buried. He's in his coffin. It's all said and done. He is dead, and they literally open it up, and he opens his eyes, and like, oh my God, you're alive. But what I do,
it sounds so shit.
It's true. It's true. I fucking watched it. I saw it today. I've totally forget what I was going to say. It was something about Claude Rains, and I'm totally
sorry. I'm
It's okay. It's okay. Have you got any more factoids, my love?
Not this specific one here, but the wolf's cane is the only existing prop left from the movie that can be physically touched to this day.
It was in the Smithsonian by any chance?
It used to belong to a guy who was like the most avid movie collector that ever lived, called Bob Burns. But it then got sold on, and I think it's in the Smithsonian, but I'm not sure. But the thing that makes me laugh is the head was actually made out of rubber. So when they were hitting each other with the stick,
it's not real, Graeme.
Oh, please tell me it squeaked as well.
I hope so, like a dog's toy.
Just him hitting a German Shepherd. But they're like, we're making a horror movie here.
Yes.
Glue some more yak hair to this man.
But yeah, it was that's the only existing one left.
I started giggling when you started talking there because you're like, you see this? I've killed a gypsy with this.
Yes, I did.
I said, okay, Dad, you're just admitting murder.
The only reason I asked if it was in the Smithsonian is because I believe that the majority of Lon Chaney's makeup, like his prosthetics, I think they're all in there too.
Right.
Like his eyes from Phantom. Like
Yeah.
they're in, like they are like full on eyes, you know.
Yeah, they're like
They're
they
like
sit.
full on big cap things that he shoved in his face.
In there,
like you think his son suffered with a hot gun? He really, really suffered. Yeah, lunch.
Maybe he was protecting his son. He was like, "No, son, don't go into movies."
Honestly, I really think that was the
job.
case. I really think that was the case. I don't think he was being an arsehole about it. I think he was just like, listen, look at the shit that I've had to endure. And I did this to myself. Like, you will go through so much worse.
It's really crazy. Like it
is.
I haven't actually seen the original. I know we were on a podcast about it, but whenever I talked about it, I only referenced the 1946 one with Claude Rains. Yeah, I still haven't seen the original Phantom of the Opera, and I think I'm on that episode, so I should probably watch that.
Yeah, I have to watch it too. It's one of my sister's favorite. And I had to check with her as well, because I've seen images of the Lon Chaney one, but then I know that there's something else. But I don't know if I was getting myself mixed up with Nosferatu. So I had to text Michaela and I was like, is Lon Chaney in this? She was like, yes, it's all right. Then I know which one I'm talking about now. It's okay. I own that movie. Yeah, it's one of my sister's favourites. This is hence the reason why she begged to be on it.
Yeah.
Any more facts? Because I'm run out. I'm all out of facts.
I'm all good.
I can do loads of facts, but do they have to be true?
I mean,
Well,
if you really want to deceive our audience,
I can't
Yes.
honestly promise that
No,
mine are all true. They're Google and YouTube and
just remember, Graeme, my audience today is your audience on a Friday.
These poor bastards getting that double whammy.
You're getting Graeme on a Friday and a Monday.
Yeah, you must. They'll be sick of us still. Look, I'm just going to. Where's it going to be? I just want to look at the unsubscribe count and just go in there.
Oh, please don't do that. You have a show here too.
Don't anger the Ferengis and the bloody Klingons. Leave them be, man.
The Ferengis of YouTube. But no, I think one of the weirdest thing, and obviously this is me with a lot of modern bias in this, but the dad, Claude Rains, I do love that he's this total man of science, and he's just like, no, there's a logical explanation for everything. But then he's massively religious, and it just seems this weird kind of thing where he's just like, oh, well, I love telescopes, I love astrology and stuff, but only God knows how the heavens work. And you're like, yeah, and then what is it? He says later on, like, yeah, so he says something later on. It's just like, it's this weird kind of, how modern times people are atheists because they're like, hey, you have science, and therefore you can't prove a negative, so you have to be like, we need evidence of God, or science says nothing. And then in the past it was the idea of, obviously in this day and age, I assume, like, obviously the time this is set, but even in the 40s and stuff, you still got people who are very much like, oh, of course science, but obviously God.
It's always God.
Always God. Always God. I just remembered what I wanted to say about Claude Rains. Is he really that stupid? He did not know that was his son. Like, we could tell it was him.
No, the hot glue does a lot to a man.
That's true. I forget.
Maybe it was like, hang on, my son doesn't smell like burned hair.
He's not wearing a bump it. He's not got a bump it in.
He can't possibly be my son. My son walks on the flats of his feet, not tippy toes.
I'm sorry, Claude Rains. My apologies.
One does not.
I also love the idea though that, like, where it's Claude Rains is the dad, and at the beginning they see the portrait of, like, the dead brother, and it basically is Lon Chaney.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you're like, are you really his dad? Because like, and I just love the idea of it. It would be good though if they had, like, a picture elsewhere in the house of what his mum looked like.
It would be Lon Chaney.
Lon Chaney doing it in drag, and they're like, "Oh, that explains it because you don't look anything like Claude Rains." I just want that other picture to exist. It's just brilliant. It's the same pose and everything. They just stuck like
the two sons who Lon Chaney and the mother Lon Chaney and Claude Rains. I'm going to be honest, this is not how I expected
the milkman arrives and looks exactly like Lon Chaney Jr. And you're like,
Yeah. Get it
I
now.
can't believe we're questioning bloody Claude Rains' parentage. My God. Honestly,
he is
He was a
half
very
the
tolerant
man.
man.
he's so small.
He's half the man Lon Chaney was.
But
Literally.
I didn't realize how small he was until I was watching The Invisible Man. I was like, fuck me, he's tiny. He's a tiny tot.
Nothing wrong with a tiny guy. They fold better. But
In-
I have to say though, like watching these, like I said at the beginning, I have a crush on Claude Rains.
No, you don't say.
But it's just that thing of just going. He's such a good actor. He's got this wonderful look
Such
to
a
him, and obviously
presence.
that voice, like
In Invisible Man, he's just. I can't wait to talk about that one either, and I think you're on that one too. I was the minute they came up, I was like, Graeme, you have to be on The Invisible Man, just because I know obviously how much you love Claude Rains, and you can do that movie justice.
I love that movie. Like I did gush about that. Like it's what is it? Where have I still got my notes?
I can't believe Graeme's
I literally the previous notes from the first episode, I dug them out and it just says telescope pervert. That is just a note. And I love the idea of like the grave digger scene, the first person the Wolfman kills, where it's the grave digger.
Yeah.
I just in the back of my mind when I was watching it, I was just imagining him being like, "Oh, wouldn't it be ironic if I got killed while I'm digging a grave?" And then he does. We haven't talked about the bear trap, but what did I vote? I rated all of the movies.
Oh my God, the bear trap! I forgot about
that. Yeah, that's it. Because we had Wolfman, Creature, and Phantom that I gave 7 out of 10s because I really liked them. It was only The Mummy that I gave an 8 out of 10.
I remember you.
It was only The Mummy that
really
I liked more than these. But then the rest, like Frankenstein, Bride, Dracula, even Invisible Man. Because the problem is, whatever we say, however much we gush about the Invisible Man, that fucking woman, that's -4 points to start, because it's like, I don't care if she was someone's mum. I don't know how someone can have a whole Hollywood career from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. That's literally that's the only way I can imagine that she was.
It's that voice. Oh my God, it's that voice. But
the screams in Bride of Frankenstein. It's just like, stop screaming, please. Screams in the Invisible. Just don't scream.
Well, I think we best off wrap this bad boy up, because we have many other episodes where Graeme will be with us and you'll get his great opinions, especially when we do The Invisible Man. Opinions. So, this goes up on a Monday, but on a Friday, someone else's podcast goes up. I wonder who that could be.
It ain't me.
You know what? I think it's that Goodwill. Oh my God. Have you seen his frosted tips? He's like proper gold.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He looks just like Timberlake, doesn't he?
Yeah, like the boot. Yeah.
Bye. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, that's Timberland. Sorry.
Oh yeah, the boots. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. On Friday we have Star Trekking Up North. Or Star Trekking, I forgot.
Have you got a guest this week? Because my God, you guys have got people coming to use.
We don't. Oh God, I'm really confused by this because we recorded.
You recorded it
Star
last
Trekking
night
for this Friday yesterday, and I had to pretend that I'd already been on this, and then I messed it up because
you're not on until
Monday.
This
doesn't go out till Monday.
Yeah,
and now I'm like, next week, do we have a guest? Do I pay enough attention to know that we have a guest?
It's so confusing because last week I was like, then there's Star Trekking on Friday, which is fine because that's in the future, and then there's the one, or it's in the past now, and then you've got the Sunday live episode. Now that's in the past because we're Monday, and it's so confusing.
How is time?
Yeah,
but
what is
we might have a guest. Who knows? Who knows what day it is?
You're gonna have to find out, and I'm sure Goodwill will be promoting the shit out of it and telling you all. So yes, Star Trekking on a Friday, live show on a Sunday, and us the monsters on a Monday. The one you really all should be paying attention to.
Yes,
I'm not joking. I'm on the Sunday live one too, so please don't. Right. You can find all Dan's stuff linked down below. If she didn't already know this, I have all your information right down here.
Okay.
Right down there. All
Down
down there.
there.
All
Yeah.
down there. Graham's information will be all down here. And also our social medias for Nerdy Up North, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Oh, and we also play video games on Twitch.
I do that as well occasionally.
He does.
Are you going to ask the last question?
Yes, I don't know. I really honestly don't feel like I can, but I'm going to.
Okay.
Why do you love the Wolfman? Oh, was that the last question? Or would you fuck the Wolfman?
That's great.
Usually my last question is, why do you love the wolf? Like, why do you love said monster? I could not ask that based on what we have just spoke about.
Yeah.
So I'll go with Graham's. Would you let the Wolfman fuck you?
We don't know if he's a top. We who knows? He might be verse or bottom. But
He might be a switch.
you might have to scissor him. Who knows?
He might switch. You don't. You
Yeah,
just
could
don't
be a
know.
switch.
I was actually going to leave it with a quote, but I mean, I'm
If
raising
it's
the bar
relevant to this
here.
question, then go.
You
for it.
leave
Really?
you. We will end this on your quote,
really.
Dan. Go for it.
No, I wouldn't fuck the Wolfman. Just saying.
No, get hair in your teeth. Right. Next is right. Lon Chaney Jr. said, "All the best monsters played for sympathy. That goes for my father, Karloff, myself, and all the others. They won the audience's sympathy that way. The Wolfman did not want to do all those things. He was forced into them." So he very much took the time to go out of his way to say they are more loved than him because he was made to do that through the affliction he gained rather than a sympathy because they were made to be monsters, whereas he wasn't. He was
forced
cursed.
into it.
Yes.
It was a forcible monsterage.
Look at me
So
bringing
you
the tone up. I'm bringing the tone right
That
up
was-
there, wasn't I?
That was beautiful. We will end it with Dan's quote. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Next week is Xenomorph. It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Next week is Xenomorph. We've got Jake back on again. Gonna have to see what kind of backdrops these two bad boys bring to the table because
Jake will win.
Yeah, I think you might. You could have the biggest aliens stood behind you, and Jake would probably top it with just a picture.
Yeah,
And an
green
alien
screen
coming
it.
behind him. Yeah. So tune in next week for Xenomorph. Thank you, Graeme. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone who's joined us. And stay nerdy, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.